Yeah, so if you're wondering how anybody can play fast and cool lines like this, also the rhythmical aspect of it is not to be neglected, because he really resolves this line really cool. And yes, of course, I want to know how can anyone play a line like this without being George Benson, right? And so I'm going to sit down and work on my own lines today. I'm going to play over invitation again. And I'm just going to try to come up with lines that I like, because I think the magic is really in the true improvisation, finding an idea, following the idea, and looking what is going to happen. And basically, my experience is I need to practice a long time or improvise for a long time. And then new stuff will come out. And then I'm going to try to dissect that. So let's look what's going to happen. So one way I'd like to think about playing lines is about thinking how I'm navigating my way through the city. Let's say I'm on the bike and I'm going to work, and I'm always using the same streets and the same crossroads to get from point A to point B, right? Because I know that works. Sometimes I might have another street that I use, and then I find something new. And basically that's how you can think about improvising lines as well. We all have stuff that we know that works, and we use that all the time, right? But it's so interesting to find another way to play the same thing. So basically, if you're playing a 2-5-1, there are many ways how you can improvise over it. And one thing that really helps with finding new stuff is to force yourself to play 8-note lines, because like this, you're forced to continue your train of thought, sort of, and you can't just like stop and refer to the way you normally would play. So let me explain how you can train that. And then if you have been improvising in 8 notes for a while, what I really like to do is to stop the track, right, the loop. Now we have been hearing the song and the chord changes for a while, and that's important if you're starting out. Don't skip that step. Now we're sitting down and we're just improvising without any loop and also without any time. So that means, for example, our first chord is like a C minor 7. Let's say it's a C minor 7. And we're going to improvise on our own. So I would typically play a C minor 7 arpeggio maybe, so that I hear the chord because it's no longer there, right? So I'm playing something to really clearly help me hear where I am. And then I'm just going to improvise and try to find my way through the changes. And what happens then, if you don't have the looper running and you don't have the metronome clicking, is that you can sort of go slower and faster. So you're starting and then you're maybe trying to find something, but you don't find it immediately, so you can slow down and look for the note and continue your line, right? All the time still playing 8 notes per bar. And this also gives you the possibility to start a line again. So let's say you're starting again on the C minor 7 arpeggio, but now you're going somewhere else, right? So you can sort of really take the time to craft your lines. And it's a great exercise because like this, we don't have the, you know, the rush and the stress of being in time, but we just know we need to find 8 notes. And if that sounds too complex, maybe just improvise again over the jam track playing 8 note lines. And if you find yourself not being able to continue a line in a specific moment over a specific chord, stop the loop and look what you just played, and then take this thing that you just had and develop that. And that's really cool, but it also means you have, of course, to listen to what you've been playing before, right? Listen to yourself, and then you develop like a longer thread. So if you're playing like this, you can use consecutive 8 notes. Could also be triplets, could also be 60 notes, right? It's just like you have sort of a restriction. The restriction is a rhythmic pattern that forces you to continuously play lines. This exercise is not meant as a goal for your improvisation. The goal is not that you go on stage and play as many notes as you can all the time, right? But it's that you are able to do that, and then you can just like decide to skip an 8 note every now and then and come up with cool rhythms, because now you have the ability to play wherever you want to, right? You can either not play or play. But if you don't practice like this, possibly your way of hearing will limit where you play and where you don't play. So it really forces you out of your habits. And what interests me the most at the moment is that every note can be a right note, even so it might not be the right note from an analytical point of view when you're playing like what, let's say, a minor third on a major 7 chord. But if it's in the context of an enclosure or a chromatic approach note, this note makes a lot more sense. So the notes always exist in contexts, like, you know, words exist in the context of a sentence, and we need to learn in which context a note could exist. And that we can do, for example, by learning licks, because licks are just like, you know, somebody's giving you a roadmap, a new way to travel the city. You're always traveling like this person is always traveling like this. You never thought about it before. Now you have another way to go from A to B. And a lick, that if you practice a lick, it will help you hear different routes for your line. And I find it really interesting what George Benson does here in the line, right? He has like this major triad on the minor 7 chord. That's a classic thing to do, right? He has an enclosure, and he's also playing this diminished arpeggio here, right? Because it's 2 chords he's improvising over, but we could also think about those 2 chords just as like 1 chord. And then the diminished arpeggio would be like a 5-1, right? So stuff like this on top of everything that we just discussed is also helpful. It's really helpful to have some tricks and ideas that help you navigate chord changes. And just a word about static chords, right? We have this long stretch of C minor 7 chord here. Of course we can outline a C minor 7 chord in all possible ways, but if we think about a G7 here and outline a G7 with this diminished arpeggio, we're also creating forward motion, right? And that's a lot of fun. And then all of a sudden, it can get much easier to navigate this package. Hey, I wanted to let you know that my new course, Master Jazz Guitar, is starting soon. It has only limited places. And the course is always with a live Zoom session, because I really believe that jazz is live music, right? And so I'm doing my best to give you this feeling of improvisation, improvising in a live situation. That's why we have those live Zoom sessions where you can improvise. And I'm also giving you feedback on your playing all along with all the stuff, all the players and licks and whatnot that come along with the course. I'm hoping to see you there, and yeah, have fun practicing and see you around. Bye.